So Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest anime is finally upon us, and a lot of people have been waiting for this series to finally come out, me included, as I have a bunch of 100 Years Quest themed videos planned out for the course of the anime's run. But before things come out, I do want to give you guys a brief rundown as to what to expect from 100 Years Quest. Now originally this was meant to be a big video where I just recap the entirety of Fairy Tail, but then I realized I don't have the time and the ability to make an entire video detailing the entire series or going arc by arc of the main continuity of Fairy Tail. So, as an alternative, I was just going to check out Just Stop's whole 3-hour retrospective of Fairy Tail, where it goes from the beginning of the anime towards the last season, if you just want a bit of a refresher as to what happened in the mainline series of Fairy Tail. For this video, I will just be giving you guys baseline information as to what to expect in 100 Years Quest, like specific characters and what the plot will generally be about. So this is more or less everything you need to know before you start watching 100 Years Quest. And if my timing is right, this will come out the weekend of the very first episode of the anime. Then again, my timing has been crap before, so let's see how this goes. Before we jump into the actual video, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Fairy Tail is just going to keep rising and rising up the ranks as this new season comes out, and I am very excited for how the anime will portray the sequel. Before we jump into things, this video is brought to you by Tokyo Treat and Sakurako. If you're like me and ever crave to have some snacks straight from Japan, then Tokyo Treat and Sakurako are right for you. Tokyo Treat and Sakurako are both monthly subscription boxes that give you a selected assortment of Japanese snacks directly from Japan. With Tokyo Treat, it's a monthly Japanese pop snack box where you will get up to 20 exclusive limited edition and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks that are only in Japan for a limited time, which also includes some instant ramen and a selected drink. Sakurako, on the other hand, is a monthly Japanese artisan snack box which supports local Japanese snack makers, with each box also containing its own 20 traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and special Japanese tableware. And for this month, Tokyo Treat's theme is the Okinawa Snack and Oasis. Get a taste of island life and adventure to one of Japan's most popular getaway destinations, Okinawa. This month's box is fully packed with tropical flavors and Okinawan favorites that you don't want to miss out on. Discover sweet island delicacies and Japanese local treats in this month's box, with some key highlights that you don't want to miss out on, being the Kit Kat cookies and cream, the Okinawa sea salt donut, Ariel's sour cream and onion chips, Okinawa style ramen, and lastly some Shikusawa soda, as well as a plethora of other snacks straight from this month's box. And if you want to know more about Okinawa, the theme of this month's box, as well as all the other really delicious snacks we get from this box, take a peek at the booklet as it has some very interesting pieces of information for you. For this month's theme of Sakurako, it is the Festival of Tohoku. Known for its lively and colorful festivals, Tohoku offers a captivating display of culture and tradition. This month, Sakurako invites you to indulge in authentic and savory flavors that capture the essence of this enchanting region's celebrations, bringing a piece of Tohoku's festive charms straight to your home. Some snack recommendations I would give off is the peach konjac jelly, the walnut mochi, the senbei cookie, the mini shrimp tempura, and many more, and it all pairs well with the lemon matcha genmatcha tea. And this month's tableware is actually the Neko Tenoga, a traditional Japanese towel. And you can also learn a lot about Tohoku as well as its festivities and all the different types of snacks that are made from these really talented Japanese snack makers within the booklet that comes along with the box. These boxes from Tokyo Treat and Sakurako have just been a delight to have, and I've had so many different favorites over the last few boxes that I've gotten. This one might be one of my personal favorites. And if you want to have a taste of Japan's delicious snacks and culture and grab your own boxes, head to the links in the description down below and use the code GreekWeeb to get $5 off your first order. So what are you waiting for? Go get a piece of the land of the rising sun for you today, and with all that said and done, back to the video. So, what do you really need to know about Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest? Well, for one, it actually takes place a little over a month after the last chapter of Fairy Tail, where Team Natsu essentially goes off to take the 100 Years Quest. Now, if you don't remember from the main series, the 100 Years Quest is one of the multitude of different ranked quests that wizards and wizard guilds can take, ranging from the highest to be S, double S, decade quests, or even century quests. And century quests are meant to be the most difficult ones, as they're quests that have not been completed for a long time, or perhaps could take roughly a century to complete. due to the level of difficulty. And what makes this an incredibly interesting concept for a series is that it actually goes back to a bit of Fairy Tail's beginning roots, which is the quest system. Over the course of the series, there have been areas where the Fairy Tail Guild have taken a variety of different jobs and quests during their daily activities, and that's kind of their job. That's the job of many wizards and wizard guilds. And the 100 Years Quest is not really all too different. But what makes this 100 Years Quest very, very special is that this is actually the quest that Gildarts, the strongest member of Fairy Tail, well, I don't want to call him the strongest now based off the power levels of some other characters, but at the strongest at the time, he went over and took the 100 Years Quest. And so Mashima decided to make the sequel, make these characters take on the quest that Gildarts could not complete. And if you don't already remember, Gildarts actually lost his leg, his arm, and a few of his inner organs on this quest because this led him to his first interaction with Acnologia, which kind of sets a precedent for how difficult that this quest actually is. However, it is heavily implied that Gildarts didn't even make it to the objective of the 100 Years Quest because of his interaction with Acnologia. And that's where Team Natsu steps in, as it's actually Gildarts that does encourage them to take on the quest, after Natsu just stating how interested he is in taking on the quest and wanting to do something that even Gildarts couldn't do. So they make it to Giltina, which is the main hub of the series, an entire new continent to the north of Ishgard, and this already adds more to the world of Fairy Tail as we get to explore a whole other continent. Yes, there was Alvarez, but we didn't really explore it. We just saw a desert, a beach, one small island, and just a bit of inside of a castle. With Giltina, we actually get to explore an entirely new area and a whole new world is expanded upon us. It's then that we actually soon begin to meet the actual person that gave the Century Quest out, and that is Elefsir, who is revealed to actually be a Dragon Slayer, and one of the first Dragon Slayers, as he is also the one who created Magia Dragon, the very first wizard guild ever to be created. And so this already holds an extra bit of significance and expands the world of Fairy Tail with the introduction of the very first wizard guild and technically the very first guild master. Now, Elefsir gives the 100 Years Quest to Team Natsu once they agree, as the 100 Years Quest is essentially a dragon slaying quest, where due to a level of difficulty has been deemed borderline impossible, as it has taken over a century and no one has completed the quest. And this dragon slaying quest is not a standard dragon slaying, as essentially the task here is to seal away the 5 dragon gods. Now, I've already made a brief video on the dragon gods, each of the members of the dragon gods and what they are. If you want to check that out, I go in detail there. But to summarize, the 5 dragon gods are 5 incredibly powerful dragons in the land of Giltina that are said to have powers on the level of Acnologia, and to the point where the citizens of general areas of Giltina view them as gods due to their immense amount of power. And Elefsir fears that if left unchecked, or if either of them decided to form some sort of conflict with the other, it could cause devastation to not just Giltina, but perhaps the rest of the world. And this is where 100 Years Quest expands from here, as the baseline is going back to the roots, going on a quest, exploring new areas, and fighting new enemies. That is the origin of Fairy Tail, and we get more world building and more lore throughout 100 Years Quest with each new dragon god we meet and with every new area we end up discovering. Now, the interesting thing about the 100 Years Quest is that just like any other quest, there is a reward upon completion, and the reward is essentially any wish that Elefsir himself in his power can grant, so doing something for the person that seals away the 5 dragon gods. Now, the word seal is kind of vague, as it's either their power is taken away or they themselves are slain. Now, it's still relatively ambiguous what the sealing means, but all we do know is that there is a tablet in Elefsir's guild, and whenever a dragon god is slain or taken out of commission to an extent, their image is burnt away from the slab that Elefsir has in his guild hall. Now, before I move on, there's also another piece of information I should let you guys know, and that is the introduction of the brand new character, Toka, to the Fairy Tail Guild. And she's actually the first new character we do meet in 100 Years Quest, as we start the series off, technically, in the Fairy Tail Guild, seeing all the other side characters that we've come to know and love in Fairy Tail. And Toka is an interesting case, as she has joined Fairy Tail because she fell in love with Natsu, which surprises everybody, believe it or not. But there is an air of mystery around Toka. There's something off about her, and that's a mystery we begin to play with and explore throughout 100 Years Quest, to the point where even Jalal is curious about her, as he is off doing his own investigation and visiting different wizard guilds in Ishgard in order to gain information on Toka, as there's something that he is looking into revolving around her. Now that's all I'm going to talk about in terms of Toka, because she gets her own video later down the road, and trust me, there is a lot that goes into Toka, so look forward to that video on the horizon. The first arc of the 100 Years Quest anime, though, is going to cover the Mercphobia arc, the very first dragon god we meet, and that is the Water Dragon God, and we see him in the promo trailer for 100 Years Quest. And this is a relatively good arc, as we not only get a new area, but we also get introduced to other new characters outside of the dragon god himself. And these new characters are actually the wizards of Diablos. Now, while I put a brief spoiler warning at the beginning of this video, this is where I really have to get into a little bit of spoilers, as Diablos, upon their introduction, we figure out a lot about them. And that is that not only are they a actually legal wizard guild, they're not a dark guild, they themselves are consistent of primarily dragon slayers. Not just any dragon slayers, but 5th generation dragon slayers. Whole new dragon slayers that are introduced within this sequel series. Now, I also go over 5th generation dragon slayers a bit in my Dragon Slayers Explained video, which if you want to go watch that to look at all the dragon slayers and thoughts on that, go check that out. But essentially, 5th generation dragon slayers are those that actually gain their dragon slayer abilities by eating dragons, dubbing them dragon eaters. So if a dragon slayer or a person eats a dragon's flesh, that means that they themselves can become a dragon slayer and gain their particular abilities. It is also heavily implied that if they eat a dragon slayer, then the same thing could happen and they could gain their abilities. However, that has not yet been proven, and that is more so headcanon based on things that are heavily implied. But within this first season of 100 Years Quest, we are only going to get introduced to 3 members of Diablos, that being Scullion, Mad Mole, and Kyria. And Kyria is a fan favorite and my personal favorite. She is awesome, she is so much fun. Fans are going to love her when she gets her introduction at the very start of 100 Years Quest. Now, Diablos is a very interesting guild, as they hunt dragons so that they can find them, slay them, and devour them to either gain their power or have other members eat them as a sort of rite of passage to help gain power and become dragon slayers themselves. And just like with Toka, Diablos is going to get its own solo video, as there's a good amount of history in terms of Diablos being a guild, as well as its other members, and the goals of Diablos as well, so I'll make a full video of that in the future, so I can just jump quickly into other characters. But I will also go over individual characters as they're introduced throughout 100 Years Quest, because I feel like that'd be fun, and I would like to talk about all these new individual characters. Now, with Diablos into the story, we get 2 factions vying to fight off against the dragon gods, Fairy Tail and Diablos. And this adds a really cool dynamic coupled with the future arcs of 100 Years Quest, as these 2 powers end up clashing in their somewhat mutual goal to slay the dragon gods under different circumstances. And the first arc, like I mentioned, is going to be the Mercphobia arc, where we meet Mercphobia. And the whole conflict around not just Mercphobia, but the Team Natsu and the 100 Years Quest is them wondering, are they going to have to slay the dragon gods, as they don't know the dragon gods personally. Obviously, Natsu and Wendy, they were raised by good dragons that were friendly to humans and didn't want to cause any devastation or trouble. Meanwhile, there are other dragons that did want to harm humans, and even though the dragon gods are deemed dangerous, the Fairy Tail wizards don't know anything about the dragon gods, which this does add a really cool conflict for the wizard guild, as if they meet a dragon god, they aren't sure if sealing or slaying them would be the right move, and so that adds a whole new layer to their eventual conflicts with each of the dragon gods. And there is some complexity with the new dragon gods that they end up facing throughout the subsequent arcs. And as with any Fairy Tail arc, there are some great, really hype action moments within 100 Years Quest that will just make you incredibly excited to see what happens next. And obviously, I'm not going to spoil what's going to happen with each individual arc, how things play out as well, but I want to leave you guys off with one more piece of information that I wanted to say for last, because it's something that I personally really like, and something that I'm glad Mashima added into 100 Years Quest, and that is the rivalry of Lucy and Brandish. Yes, Brandish is making her reappearance in 100 Years Quest, as she and Lucy have a similar goal going across Giltina. And that is that Aquarius's key is going to manifest somewhere in Giltina. Now, as Lucy was brought onto 100 Years Quest, it was Virgo that somewhat let it slip, but Brandish managed to figure this out on her own. And throughout 100 Years Quest, in a multitude of different arcs, Lucy and Brandish will have their own interactions, and I like their dynamic of not just being friends, but also pretty stubborn rivals. And it's a side quest, essentially, to this whole series that I'm glad Majima added into this, as he could have easily left Brandish out of it, but it's obvious he wanted to do more with her, and this adds a lot more to Lucy as well, as this little bit of a competition really showcases not only their newly acquired bond, but also showcases their mutual love of Aquarius in wanting to have her back in their lives. And I just find it really fun and honestly kind of sweet. And a big spoiler thing that I have to mention, as this has big ramifications for the plot, so we'll end the video here for those who don't want to be spoiled on this aspect of 100 Years Quest, because this does end up getting introduced in the finale of the first arc of 100 Years Quest, so towards the middle of the first season. So leave now if you don't want to be spoiled with this instance, but I gotta mention this as this is something to expect in 100 Years Quest. Ready? Okay. So, towards the end of the Mercphobia arc, in the actual conflict against Mercphobia, we get introduced to another one of the 5 dragon gods, who is the fire dragon god Ignia. And what makes this incredibly interesting is that Ignia is the biological son of Igniel, which by extension, Natsu is his adoptive younger brother. Which is already really interesting, as this also adds a whole nother family dynamic to an extent, like family rivalry between brothers. Ignia's presence is felt not just throughout the story, but there are instances where he'll just appear, and it just increases the hype level of 100 Years Quest even more when he is on screen. He's just got that aura around him that demands your attention. And his interactions with Natsu, with how few they are incredibly intense, and you feel how much this could mean for the plot of the story, especially if these two actually really do for real come to blows. But not in the first arc. It's more so an introduction, as well as to kind of hype up Natsu and convince him to keep getting stronger, because he does want to face off against Natsu when he gets more strength. Which also leads to a really hype and really intense moment with Natsu in the Mercphobia arc that I'm not going to even show in this video, because when that happens in the anime, it's going to look amazing, I'm sure, and it'll really get everyone's jaws dropped on the floor. But that's all for the spoiler aspect. But yeah, this video was relatively short, but I hope you guys enjoyed. That's everything that you should expect from 100 Years Quest, from some new characters, to a new faction, to the Dragon Gods, and what the 100 Years Quest is for this series. There is a lot going on in 100 Years Quest that a lot of people are going to want to understand, and I will actually do a similar video to this once we get over to the second core of 100 Years Quest, as that is something I do want to cover, because a lot does happen in the following arc preceding Mercphobia, and that demands its own video. But what did you guys think? Was this video helpful? Are you more excited to check out 100 Years Quest now, especially if you're an anime only? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel, and it shows you want to see more. I'm so excited for 100 Years Quest now that the anime is finally here, and boy, there's so much I cannot wait to see animated.